This is my first book review and first real video that I'm filming. I filmed a couple of like vlogs and stuff, but I haven't ever filmed a real sit down chat video. So we're starting that today. I finished The Will of the Many. It's been about a week since I finished it. And I have had a lot of thoughts about the book. For those of you who don't know, The Will of the Many is, I think, a YA novel loosely inspired by ancient Roman civilization. And in this world, each person has will, which is, I'm not really sure. The magic system is very vague and very unclear, but they have will and you can seed it. So you can give your will away and you can also receive will. So people who give it away, give it to other people, and then those people collect it. They get stronger and they get more powerful the more will that they have. And it's this pyramid structure with the people at the top having the most amount of will and being the strongest, and the people at the bottom are the ones giving their will away. That's kind of the basis of the story. At the beginning, we're dropped in to Viz, the main character's point of view. It's first person present, which is not typically my favorite way to read. I like first person past if I'm reading first person. We're dropped in to Viz's life, and his life at the beginning is drastically different from the way his life is at the end. And in my opinion, the story didn't start until probably 30% of the way into the book. I think the beginning of a book is really important, and this one gets you excited and intrigued and invested in a story that's not being told. So at the beginning, Viz is an orphan, and he lives at an orphanage. He works as a guard for the night shift for this prison. And after that, he goes and fights in this kind of arena and competes and is like a not performance fighter. He's like really fighting, but it is for entertainment for people. And that whole life is set up and built, and we meet loads of different characters, all introduced to us. They're all new. They're interesting. Like things are happening and it seems cool. And then everything switches. And I just don't think it's good to introduce this whole cast of characters, because this is going to get a little bit spoilery now. So if you haven't read the book, maybe click away. The tournament lady at the arena, his coworker at the prison, the person that Ulcesur interrogated in the prison, the prisoner, the guy who takes the bets at the tournament, the woman who runs the orphanage, all of the orphans, the one guy who's like a bully. Is that all? That's 6 characters that we meet in the first 30% of the story, and none of it matters. Those characters don't come with us into the story. It's a waste of time. I think that the first 30% of the book was unnecessary. I don't think that it needed to happen. I think all of that could have been told in a much smaller part. I don't think that all of those characters needed to be introduced in order to give Viz this backstory. I think you could have told us the backstory. We could have learned the backstory through smaller snippets, like we did with Viz's true backstory. And that would have been plenty. You could have started at 30% into the book when Ulcesur kind of stumbles upon Viz, and that whole of him adopting Viz and everything like that should have been the start of the book. I was interested in the world before, and then none of those characters show up again. It's pointless. And it just frustrated me that I was reading so much about these characters and he spent so much time introducing us to these people, and then it doesn't end up being anything in the end. So that was frustrating and unnecessary. Another small gripe that I have with the story is that people are describing this book as epic fantasy, and it feels very, very much like sci-fi. This book is a sci-fi novel, in my opinion. It is not fantasy. I think the transvect and all of the technology, all the lights that they have, like that is sci-fi. That's not fantasy to me. So that's a gripe that I have. And the amount of modern stuff, modern technology that's in the book frustrated me because I was sold the story as it's like an ancient Rome inspired book. And I think it is extremely loose with that. I'm pretty sure just the naming and the like hierarchy structure is what can be described as Roman inspired. Everything else is not. It's ancient Rome inspired, but there are knights also, like KNIGHTS. The amount of modern things that were thrown into the story really takes me out of it. This is a silly one, but Viz eats pancakes a couple times in the story, and I can't get past that one. That one was one that really stuck with me for some reason. I don't know why. In one point, I think this is a continuity error more than anything, but Viz gets stitches when he has the transvect accident and he gets injured from that. And then a couple chapters later, Viz is like, oh yeah, luckily I got my staples out. Otherwise, this metal thing would have like been like really injured me or something like that. So he had stitches and then he had staples instead. And staples are extremely modern. I don't know how in their technology they have staples to close up a wound instead of stitches. I don't know. The modern stuff in the story just, it really quickly took me out because I went into this expecting it to be heavily Roman inspired. I complained to a couple of friends about this. The Roman Empire is not James Islington's Roman Empire. And it very clearly shows. And I saw him speak about this in an interview. He said that he was looking for an interesting world. He had this idea for the magic system, I think, and he was looking for an interesting world to set it in. And he just started looking through history and was like, oh, the Roman Empire, that might be a good idea. It's just not my favorite. It's not, I didn't think it was well done. I didn't care for it. One of the big problems I had with the story, the way that things were described did not make it easy for me to picture anything. I really struggled with picturing anything that was being described in the book because I'm one of those people who I need you to like kind of set the scene. I need the atmosphere. I need the vibe. And then based on the vibe, my brain will just picture whatever I want. But like the general vibe is what I need. Like I like small details. I like general vibe. I'm not a math person. I can't, like, if you tell me that something is like 400 feet wide, I have no idea how wide that is. I don't know how tall something is. Like, you can't describe things to me in numbers and expect me to be able to picture that for real. I struggled with picturing anything in the book because his descriptions were very numbers based. It was very much the buildings were 300 feet tall and all of it was 500 feet by 500 feet. Like it's too big. First of all, the scale was too large for me. Describing things only in numbers like that is setting me up for failure when it comes to picturing anything in my head. So I really struggled with picturing everything. Like when he described the transvect at first, I had no idea what to picture. I just didn't get it. I think the descriptions were lazy. I think it wasn't well done for me. There was another description that I realized it's laziness or lack of skill. I'm not sure. There was a scene where Viz is in this area and it's huge and long, and he said it's got 2 rows of columns, and he described it as cathedral like. And if you have to resort to comparisons for your description is not strong enough. If you have to say it's like this building so that people picture that building, you're not doing a good enough job at describing the area, I think. So that was the main problem that I had. His description was never really strong enough for me to picture anything in the story. I kind of fumbled along. The beginning was really difficult, and I fumbled along and kind of just, I figured it out a little bit as I went. I've seen people saying that Viz is too good at everything and everything's way too easy for him when he gets to the academy, but I think that's fine. He was raised as a prince, so it makes sense that he would have this background, and if he's already kind of educated, he knows how to learn, and I think he does it well. Like, I think it's fine. He also, it seems, got a lot of help with everything. There are a couple of things that I realized were bothering me about this story once I started reading something else. So I'm currently like 45% of the way into The Great Hunt, which is book 2 of The Wheel of Time. The descriptions in that story, I'm immediately put into the world. I know exactly what everything looks like. It's so easy. The atmosphere, I can feel it. He describes the light of the sun, and like, it's just, the description there is such a strong contrast to the lack of description in here, or the type of description that's in this book. But also, I realized I didn't care strongly about any of the characters in this book except for, I don't know how to pronounce any of their names, except for Calidus is, I think, his name. Him and, like, is it Eden, his other friend? I really liked both of them, but I didn't care about anybody else. And in The Great Hunt, there's one character that you are in the mind of for 2 chapters total so far, and immediately, like, I loathe her. I hate this girl so much. Everything that she's thinking, like, her line of thinking is wrong. I just don't like her. I love when an author can make me despise and loathe characters. That's why I love Robin Hobb so much, because she does this so well. Malta, absolutely hated her the first time. But in this book, in The Will of the Many, you're not with the characters long enough to hate them, except you are. Like, Viz is in year 6 for a good amount of, like, 2 months, I think. So we've had time to, like, work up and, like, be introduced to this teacher. Viz has been with this guy for so long and he hates him, but we're not shown enough to have us hate him too. Yes, I felt irritation when the teacher, like, disqualified them from winning the labyrinth, from running it, because they spoke in a different language instead of in code. Like, they were annoying, but I didn't feel strongly enough about the teacher to hate him. So I didn't care about any of the characters very much at all. And I think that that's a problem in a story. You should have characters that you hate, and you have characters that you really love. And I didn't have really either of that. I really liked Calidus, and this is spoiler, he dies. The one character I really, really liked, and he's dead. And I'm like, now I don't really care. All of those I had big problems with. But the thing I had the biggest problem with, and I knew this was going to happen when I read the first scene with him, is Diago, the wolf. I could see this coming from a mile away when Viz helps him. First of all, I knew Viz was going to help him. The second he stumbles upon him, there's no way Viz is going to leave him. But the fact that this wolf does all of this stuff for Viz, it just was so unrealistic. Unrealistic for a fantasy novel. Unrealistic for a fantasy novel. For a novel in general. Like, this is, no. It's just so poorly done, this situation. Like, from a 15-minute encounter 6 months ago, I'm assuming you all have read the book, so I'm not going to go into explaining it really. Like, it's so frustrating to me. This scene, this whole, all of the interactions with him frustrated the like crap out of me. It was so frustrating. You're telling me that from that 15-minute encounter of Viz saving this little puppy wolf's life, he has this bond and connection and desire to save Viz's life over at the risk of his own, at the detriment of his own wolf life. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. There's no way a wild animal is going to remember a person who saved him 6 months back and feel so strongly about saving, like him getting saved, that you're going to risk your own life. It doesn't make sense to me. Diago knows about the dome, the like big red dome in the middle of the forest. He knows about it and tries to stop Viz from going in. I don't believe that. You're telling me that Diago waits the entire time that Viz is inside the dome, running the labyrinth and doing all of that stuff for him to come out? No. And doesn't eat all of the food that's in Viz's pack because he threw it out there? No. Diago goes inside the dome and fights all of these random people for Viz. None of it's realistic. None of it for a wild animal, unless this is something like he is actually so much more intelligent than the humans believe, which they're making it seem like that. But like, it's just so poorly done. It is so poorly done. Viz's ability to take on all of these people also, like he's fighting so many grown adults. He's exhausted. He hasn't slept in probably at least 24 hours. He's barely eaten. He's just got suffocated in those gold claws. And now he's physically taking down grown men and grown women and just snapping their necks like it's nothing. All of the scenes with Diago the wolf were like the biggest eye roll from me. It was just not well done at all. I wrote in my notes, it was getting better. Now this made it so much worse. The whole story was getting interesting until this, and it's just so unbelievable. The thing that frustrates me the most is there's no explanation, and it doesn't seem like any of it matters. None of Diago's saving of Viz, none of the conflict that's happening in that section mattered at all. It didn't push the story along. It was just there for action's sake. All of the stuff that happened in that section of the book, from the time Viz leaves the dome, all of the action that happens before he gets back over the river is useless. It doesn't push the story along. It doesn't do anything besides be action for action's sake, and that frustrates me. It is a waste of the reader's time, in my opinion. I was so frustrated by the end. There were so many things that were left unanswered. The book just abruptly ends. I didn't like that. We never found out about the Angus's power. Estevan told Viz that he would find out soon about this power and that it has something to do with why his dad got killed and why Seuss got invaded. And his dad knew about this power that the Angus now are using against the hierarchy. None of that got explained. Viz never understood, never realized, none of it got explained. None of it even got hinted at. After that was said, nothing continued. We didn't get glimpses of it when Viz is on Seuss spying on military. Like, they could have explained something a little bit of it then. Like, I just thought that there was like some innate power, and when Estevan killed himself, it was going to transfer to Viz and Viz was going to get some of it. Nothing happened. I'm frustrated about that. So the blood taint and stuff like that, is that explained anywhere? Did I miss that as a reader? Like, how does Emisa assess that that's what's going on with Viz and that's why she tries to kill him? Like, I didn't understand that at all. Was the tainted blood described somewhere and I just missed it because I was frustrated at the book? Somebody explain if I missed it. It's just like nothing was explained at all. Viz never saw Alcacer after they talked at Seuss and he like threatened him. Ulcister's change of character felt like a complete 180. It felt very out of character. He was very calm and level-headed, and it didn't seem like his character to continually to like threaten Viz and be like, if you don't do this, I'm going to send you to a sapper. It didn't make sense to me that Ulcister got so aggressive with Viz. It didn't seem like him. After that, Viz didn't see him again. Viz has no idea what happened to Carrier still. So even though he went into the dome, the Viz that lives in that current world with him still has no idea what happened to Ulcister's brother. So is he going to send him to a sapper anyways? Like, there's no way. The whole book frustrated me. I didn't enjoy it as much as I wish I did, and I'm really disappointed by it. I think that it could have been done so much better, and I am not sure the execution was really there. So I just wanted to kind of wrap the video up because I feel like I didn't hate The Will of the Many, but it let me down. It was disappointing. It let me down. I was expecting more from it, and I think what I got wasn't enough. If there's anybody out there watching this, let me know what you thought if you read the book. Yeah. I think I said everything I needed to say. I recorded for like 40 minutes. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.